Hey everyone, so the moment is here. This is Super Bowl week. We have the Super Bowl coming up this Sunday, February 11th, 6:30 p.m. on CBS. What we're going to be looking at today is our prediction and our Super Bowl breakdown. There's going to be the San Francisco 49ers versus the Kansas City Chiefs. The number one seed versus the Chiefs. Chiefs came out of nowhere this playoffs, beat a bunch of teams, beat higher-ranked teams than them. They are now back-to-back Super Bowls, and the 49ers are trying to get their first Super Bowl win since I think it was 93 or 94. So it's been a really long time. They have recently been to the Super Bowl, but they haven't been able to get over that hump there. But they're in competition here. So this is two really good coaching staffs. This is two really good teams, and a lot of really good playmakers. Everyone's going to be talking about Taylor Swift the whole time. I know everyone who likes football is so sick of hearing about Taylor Swift, but there's a lot of non-football fans here. The NFL got what they wanted. They got Taylor Swift, Kelce in the Super Bowl. They're going to get a lot of views off of that from people that don't watch Super Bowls. But we're going to be breaking down our predictions here, seeing who we think is going to win and lose, and what we predict the final scores will be. The spread has somewhat been shifting, but it's kind of back down to where it was last week. So let's get things started kind of looking at these two teams. So obviously the 49ers, they were a number one seed this year. They did make it to the Super Bowl. They were almost beat in the last round of the playoffs. They were down a lot of points at halftime versus the Detroit Lions. They had a massive second half, completely beat up the Detroit Lions in the second half. Defense has been pretty sloppy so far the playoffs, but they showed up the second half. Brock Purdy went off second half. He was throwing, he was scrambling. That was the big thing. A lot of people were not prepared for Brock Purdy, the running quarterback. He ran all over the Lions second half, had 40 yards rushing second half, and was throwing the ball. The 49ers are probably the best NFL roster on paper in the whole country right now. They have the best defensive roster. They have the best offensive roster. And they are healthy right now. They have Purdy. They have Christian McCaffrey, who is the best running back in all of football. They have Kittle, Debo, Ayuk, lots of playmakers. They can throw it. They can run it. And they also have a really good defense. Now, Chase Young, since they acquired him at the trade deadline, he's been playing like crap. He played like crap last playoff game versus the Lions. He has to play a lot better. He's one of the missing keys. So when they traded for him, it was to make a big difference pass rushing the quarterback. He hasn't been there so far. He has to earn the hype. What bigger stage than the Super Bowl? Then you have the Chiefs. So the Chiefs, they've been known for their offensive prowess basically the last 5 to 6 years. That's not this team. They have not been a good offensive team this year, but they have a top 3, top 5 defense. So they've completely changed. Their goal is just don't have turnovers, don't drop the ball, rely on your defense. They haven't given up more than 27 points the whole season so far. So even in games they've lost, they've barely lost them, and they basically lost them due to turnovers and drop passes. They have no drop passes in the playoffs so far. They were leading the country in drop passes, got to the playoffs. That's when the experience showed up and when the older players stepped up. Kelce, Mahomes, Andy Reid, they showed up in the playoffs. They've been playing their best football in the playoffs. They have not had an easy road. They beat the Dolphins, who weren't healthy, but they beat them nonetheless. They beat the Bills, who were not healthy, but they beat them nonetheless. And then they came around and beat the number one seed Baltimore Ravens. Actually beat them pretty bad. They made Lamar Jackson look awful. So now that was mostly based off of their defense. So Patrick Mahomes didn't have to do anything. He wasn't throwing for 300 yards, 350 yards. He was, throwing for 220, 240 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and no drop passes. He's there if they need him to throw for 300. Can he do it? Definitely. He's obviously the best quarterback in all of football. He hasn't had his best season so far, but that's basically just due to lack of playmakers. So outside of Kelce, there's no legitimate passing threats. Yes, they have Rice. Rice is not a legit number one, though. Kelce is their number one. Rice is just a compliment. Pacheco, though, has come up in the playoffs. He's been running the ball really hard, really physical, getting 20 to 30 carries per game. He's been a game changer in the playoffs for the Chiefs. Like we were saying, this is not the Chiefs' offense of old where they were in the top 5 scoring. This is a average to just below average offense the whole season. It's their defense carrying them, their defense that's getting them the wins. They've been winning games 24-20, 21-20. So barely winning close games, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're just built a little differently this year. So they had a lot of big name players like Hill that were taking up too much cap space. They got rid of them, drafted and built their team on the defensive side with an experienced offense to, if they need to go down the field, score. They have Mahomes, they have Kelsey. So they know that they can do it, but they're fine just relying on their defense as much as possible. 49ers, their defense has to show up this games. It's a top 5 defense, but in the playoffs, they've been pretty leaky so far. They've had issues stopping the run. They've had issues getting to the quarterback. Now, they kind of solved those things second half versus the Lions, but that should be a red flag. That was a shootout versus the Lions. Lions have a very good offense, but come on. You can't give up 30-something points in the playoffs versus the Lions, but yet the Chiefs haven't given up more than 27 the whole year, including the playoffs. It's kind of worrisome there. Looking at the team stats here, you have, well, just look at these quarterbacks first. So you have Purdy, who actually statistically had a better year than Mahomes. He had 4,300 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 11 picks, but he does have a way better offensive roster. And then you have Mahomes with just under 4,200 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 14 picks. I'm not really blaming him for those 14 picks because there was a lot of drop balls, a lot of sloppy play from the wide out position, and especially Tony. He's been god-awful the whole season, dropping passes nonstop and batting balls up for picks. But looking at the team stats here, you have the 49ers, the number 1 seed. They're coming into this game, and they're averaging on offense 28.9 points per game. Top 5 offense right there. Like we said, Kansas City has a top 5 offense, top 5 defense, so one of the most rounded teams. But they average 28.9 points per game. Kansas City is way far behind. They average 21.8 points per game. That's probably around 15, 18th, So they're average to just below average. Not a good offense, but they've been efficient. And that's all that they've had to be this playoffs. On defense, these teams are virtually a lock. So 49ers give up 17.5 points per game, and the Chiefs give up 17.3 points per game. So the defense is basically washout, and the edge on offense goes to the 49ers. But that doesn't matter in the playoffs. Chiefs have been here before. Mahomes is going for his 3rd Super Bowl win. He's trying to get up there with Tom Brady. He's going for the modern-day GOAT, so basically the GOAT for the next generation after Tom Brady. So he wants to get this win here. Chiefs have no pressure on them. They've already won 2 Super Bowls. This is just basically a compliment. This is a cherry on top. All of the pressure is on the 49ers. They haven't won. They've been to the Super Bowl recently, and they've lost the Super Bowl recently. If they lose, if they drop another one to the 49ers, that's going to put a lot of pressure on the San Francisco coaching staff. Why can't you get it done? This team is legit. This is the best roster in football. You might not be able to keep this roster very long. If you can't do it now versus a bad Chiefs offense, you're probably just not going to be able to do it. So the Chiefs are going for the GOAT conversation, and the 49ers are going for respect. They got to get one with this team. This team has been too good for too long. They finally made it back to the Super Bowl. They went to 3 straight Western Conference championships after having lost the Super Bowl, kept losing. They finally got over the hump, but now they need to clinch it. This is the Chiefs team to clinch it. So if there was ever a time to beat the Chiefs, it's right now. You might not get another shot. But looking at the player stats here, like we said, we have Christian McCaffrey, the best running back in all football, just under 1,500 yards. Pacheco has under 1,000. Ayuk went off this year, almost 1,400 receiving yards, and Kelsey's leading the way for the Chiefs with just under 1,000. Brock Purdy, a lot of people call him a game manager, but he definitely stepped up and won that game versus the Lions. He had a really good year, but when he's played bad, he's been really bad. He'll have, 3 picks, or he'll have 3 touchdowns and no picks. Strong season nonetheless. He's playing a really good defense, though. They're going to get after him. They're going to hit him. They're going to put him under a lot of pressure. So the spotlight's going to be on him, but he's shown that he can perform. We don't have to worry about Mahomes, Kelsey, the coaching staff. We know what they can do. We know what Andy Reid can do. We know the play calls. They can handle the offense. It's just, will the 49ers be able to score on the Chiefs? That's the big question mark. Chiefs, though, are 1.5-point favorites. This game's virtually a pick'em. So when it comes to my prediction, as of right now, I have the San Francisco 49ers finally getting the win, winning 27-24 and covering the spread. If the Chiefs win this game, I would not be surprised at all. I'm honestly surprised they're not even the favorite. But I have the 49ers finally getting over the hump. Once I do my best bets video later on this week, around this weekend, I'll see if that line changes somewhat. But right now, I have the 49ers finally getting the win and getting their first Super Bowl in 30 years. So go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe. If you have any comments, drop them below and I'll make sure to respond. Thanks.